Mom gives birth to triplets, realizes their faces are too familiar to hide. It was a mad rush to the hospital for the couple, and the husband had barely enough time to bring his wife to the maternity ward. Luckily, fate was on their side that day and they got there just in time. However, when their little ones finally came out, everybody in the room knew something was amiss. They were not his children. Aaron and Rachel Halbert's marriage story seemed like a fairy tale. They met while being employed as Presbyterian missionaries. The moment they saw each other, sparks flew and they decided to get married shortly after. One of their foremost goals was to start their own family. Everything seemed like a dream turned reality. Things had been going well for the couple so far, but there was something that made them feel empty in marriage. They wanted to have kids but had trouble succeeding. Aaron thought about adoption, but Rachel had really wanted to have her own kids. It was a really rough start and they prayed so hard for it, but then an opportunity came knocking one day. Rachel and Aaron were given the opportunity to adopt not just one but two beautiful children. Since they wanted so badly to become parents and they also wanted to do what's right, the couple decided to take in 3-year-old boy and 2-year-old girl. It was love in an instant and they couldn't be happier at finally having children at home. Deep inside, however, Rachel still yearned to be pregnant. They both knew that conceiving their own kids would be difficult given their limitations, but still they kept trying while providing a loving home for their two adopted kids. Aaron and Rachel continued to consult fertility experts and those who might be able to help. They couldn't anymore count how many times they tried and failed, but they plodded on until one day Rachel had important news to share with her husband. Finally, their prayers had been answered. Rachel was finally pregnant. Aaron couldn't contain his happiness upon hearing the news. The couple loved their two adopted children oh so dearly, though having a child together themselves would be a different experience. However, when they finally scheduled an appointment for their first scan, they were greeted with some astonishing news. The good news was that the couple had finally gotten pregnant from one of the artificial insemination procedures they underwent weeks back. Similar to her current children, Rachel and Aaron decided to go with ethnic minority embryos because statistically, such were often least likely or last to be selected. Aaron grew up in Honduras where his parents were missionaries, so his blonde hair and blue eyes stood out, so having an interracial family was a good choice. However, news of pregnancy was not all the doctor told them. During their artificial insemination procedure, Rachel opted to work with 2 embryos as this would help increase her odds of getting pregnant. This time, the doctor told them they were having twins. Overnight, the family of 4 turned into a troop of 6. But fate wasn't done with the Halberts just yet and threw them a curveball they definitely didn't see coming. It was a relatively smooth pregnancy, and 9 months later, as they were traveling to Honduras, the couple found itself rushing to the hospital with 2 kids in tow. Rachel was starting to experience contractions, signaling that their twins were ready to finally see the world. When the babies finally arrived, the medical staff could tell that Aaron was stumped by what he saw. Mothers who give birth to multiple babies aren't typically expected to reach full term. Since Rachel was pregnant with twins, the Halberts knew to be extra careful about her safety and health. When the contractions finally grew more intense, the doctors decided that a C-section operation would be the best option. Nobody expected what would happen next. When Aaron saw the doctor's face, he began to feel his stomach tighten. Something definitely wasn't right and he started getting worried about his wife's and children's safety. Were the infants all right? When the doctor finally opened his mouth, the 2 words that came out made time stop for the nervous father. He knew he had to see for himself if what the doctor said was true, and when he finally laid eyes on the babies, he broke into tears. It was one of the most unforgettable moments in the couple's life, one that Aaron would never ever bury in memory. This wasn't what he'd been planning for. He kept glancing at his wife as the doctor explained what was happening. The couple had been expecting twins and had even started choosing names for their children, but it seems their plans would have to change. Aaron was already expecting 2 African-American babies when his wife went into labor, but he certainly wasn't expecting 3. The doctor cried, "It's triplets, but how had this even happened?" The doctor questioned the couple, asking them if they were sure that Rachel had only been implanted with 2 embryos. Aaron's mouth dropped open. That couldn't be right, could it? Although Aaron had considered himself already a fully fledged father to Ford and Catherine, nothing prepared him for the feeling that he had inside the operating room. But when the doctor pulled him aside and began to question him about the embryos they'd adopted, he just didn't know what to think. Something wasn't adding up. They had adopted 2 embryos, not 3. It turned out that unbeknownst to the couple, one of the embryos had split again, making triplets. When the babies were ready, Aaron excitedly held them in his hands. He couldn't believe how beautiful his 3 new children were and that finally, they have the family they'd always been dreaming of. But life still had more surprises in store. Rachel gave birth to Anne, Whitley, and Riley in 2016. Even though it wasn't exactly what they had in mind, it turned out to be even better. As soon as the triplets were born, Rachel and Aaron felt that their family was finally complete. The couple was full of happiness, but they never expected the heartache that soon followed. Although they didn't share the same DNA or ethnicity with their 5 kids, the Halberts were proud to be their parents. They appreciated the beauty of their interracial family. In our minds, we're just living out our dream. A dream that may not look like the average family, but one that we're thankful could come true in light of our country's history. Aaron continued, but did their family support them? The beauty of a multi-ethnic family is found there, in the fact that the differences are the very thing that makes ours richer and fuller. It pushes you to think in a new way about how you think, speak, act, and live. There's something beautiful and inspirational about being the only white face sitting and chatting with some of my African-American friends as my son gets his haircut on a Saturday morning, Aaron explained. But what did others think? It's been heartening to see virtually all of our friends and family express overwhelming support for our family and the unusual ways we've built it, Aaron said. However, the new parents were surprised when they discovered that not everyone around them would be as supportive as their family and friends. While Aaron and Rachel couldn't have been prouder of their multi-ethnic family, some people had made a point of showing them what they thought. A black mother looked at us and just shook her head, recalled Aaron, and an elderly white woman looked at us with disgust. But it would take more than that to get the Halbert family down. There will always be the older white woman in Walmart who stared at us with sheer disgust, or the African-American mother who looked at us and just shook her head, Aaron said in an interview with the Washington Post. We knew, especially in the South, that a white couple with non-white children would be the center of attention and with many different reactions, Aaron explained. But thankfully, they also had good experiences. The Halberts were aware that not everyone would agree with their diversity, however, they weren't seeking everyone's approval. The family will more than likely have to deal with spectators who don't agree with their life choices. The Halberts are aware that not all people are in favor of diversity, but they don't care about other people's opinions. Aaron said one of the central themes of Christianity is, after all, God, through his Son, calling people from every tongue, tribe, and nation. Grasping diversity will make the world stronger as we marvel at God's creative genius on display through his people's varying pigments, personalities, and proficiencies, Aaron continued. Our differences are cause for celebration, not scorn, he concluded. And besides standing for diversity, the couple also had something to say about embryo adoption. The couple believes that adopting an embryo is just as important as adopting a child. After they did their own research, they discovered that there are still millions of embryos waiting to be adopted. The embryos that Rachel received had been frozen for 12 years. Rachel said, "We are not saying that those lives are any more important than the lives of the babies and children waiting to be adopted all across the world. No, they're not any more important, but they are no less important either. All of our children's lives are valued." Although the couple was happy with their decision to proceed with embryo adoption, they warned that it's not a decision to be taken lightly. They also agree that it's not for everyone. Embryo adoption can also be very difficult for the donor family. I know the decision to donate your frozen embryos for adoption is probably the hardest you'll ever make. It can be so painful to know that someone else is raising your biological children. Somehow, whether medical or family size or financial or age, you're unable to have any more transfers, explained Rachel. Even though embryo adoption isn't for everyone, it was the perfect choice for Aaron and Rachel. The couple got triplets as well as the priceless experience of pregnancy. Rachel describes the experience as beautiful and unique. She also demonstrated her gratitude to the brave and selfless biological parents who donate the embryos. The Halberts were completely open-minded about the idea of adoption and went into the process with an open heart, and they received fantastic blessings in return. Rachel had hoped she would have 4 or 5 kids, but she never thought it'd happen so fast. The children are happy and healthy. They have 2 great parents who teach them good values and impart good morals. We are certain that they will grow up to have compassion, kindness, and optimism just like their mom and dad. But how does Rachel cope with 5 kids? Anyone who has a child will agree that 1 child is enough to keep a mom busy. Now, imagine having 5. My days are filled with feeding 5 hungry kiddos, changing lots of diapers, tending to household duties, shepherding little hearts, loving on and playing with all 5, doing or learning how to do the hair of 4 beautiful girls and 1 handsome little guy, and finding a minute or 2 to eat some food myself, said the mom. But there's another question on everyone's mind. You may be wondering if Aaron and Rachel will adopt more children after their experience. We'll see what the future holds. For now, we're enjoying this phase of life right now, explained Rachel in an interview. As we can imagine, 5 kids are sure to keep them fully occupied, but Aaron and Rachel haven't given up on their other life goals. After the triplets were born, they decided to relocate to Tegucigalpa. Aaron and Rachel work in the capital and give back to the less fortunate. The special duo also has equal responsibility in taking care of their 5 children. Nevertheless, Rachel is now a full-time mom, but the Halberts remain in the city to share the gospel in every way possible. All 5 children enjoy growing up in America and in Honduras. The Halbert family portraits are definitely not traditional, but their variety and love for one another shines through. The Halberts have shown their humanity through their remarkable family story, and the children look happier than ever. Moreover, people around the world thank them for adopting children in need. Since the first day of their incredible journey, Rachel and Aaron recognize the people who fully understand their missions and dreams in life. They both know that they can't have it all, however they have enough to make their lives worth living. Rachel and Aaron shared that while many people look down on their family for having African American children, none of them can ruin their happiness.